Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel, where today I am going to be previewing Milano Sanremo, the first monument of the season. Of course it's a little bit shorter this year, I believe it's 292 kilometres, but you know, it's still an incredibly long race, characterised by the Cipressa and the Poggio at the end, and then the descent down into Sanremo. Interestingly, the first thing that I want to point out is that Saturday the 19th, when it's going to be happening, there is going to be an incredibly strong wind at Sanremo, 24 miles an hour, that's getting towards 40 kilometre an hour winds. And when you look at the segment on Strava, so they come flying down this road, and then there's the first few switchbacks, and the wind will likely be a tailwind, like cross tailwind or crosswind going on this segment, which is usually where we've seen Alaphilippe attack in the last few years. So I'd expect there to be some pretty successful long range attacks on this section. The benefit also being that this wind will carry you down the descent and then through the kind of last few flat kilometres, and then the finishes around here. So a tailwind will favour some long range attacks, and therefore that's going to influence who I think is going to be winning this race. Speaking of which, let's have a look at the start list. Yes, I am using Pro Cycling Stats, but First Cycling, as you can see here, doesn't have a complete lineup, so I am going to be using Pro Cycling Stats today. I know that some people are a bit against that, but sorry about that. So anyway, the big kind of favourites for this race. Important to note that today Julian Alaphilippe isn't taking part in Milano Sanremo. De Koenig announced that today, so that really opens things up quite a bit more for some other De Koenig riders. But let's talk about the big favourite for the race, which is probably Wout van Aert or maybe even Tadej Pogacar, but we'll start with Wout van Aert just because he has won this race before. Comes with an incredibly strong team, but they do not have Mike Teunissen anymore. Of course they do have Affini, Van Hooijdonk, Van der Sande, Roglic and Laporte to back up Wout. And I think that arguably this is the strongest team in the race. Roglic may be looking to repay Wout van Aert for the efforts that he did for Roglic during Paris-Nice on stage 8. I think that makes a lot of sense. And of course Laporte won the first stage of Paris-Nice, so he is actually perhaps a second option for Jumbo-Visma on the Poggio. Maybe he could attack from the front and Wout could kind of mark the moves, or maybe they could have both of them going down into the finish and do some 1-2 counter attacks. So Jumbo-Visma coming in with a very strong option. And then you have Tadej Pogacar for UAE Team Emirates, backed up currently by Kovi Ulissi and Matteo Trentin. And of course Pogacar loves racing in Italy. He's won Strade Bianche and also Tirreno Adriatico in Italy so far this year, so he obviously loves racing here. And I think that although he may not have the fastest sprint, I could definitely see Pogacar at least at the very minimum finishing inside the top 10. I think that he does have the capability of winning this, but it would perhaps have to be a solo move in the last few kilometres rather than trying to bring it down to a sprint, because there will be the likes of Caleb Ewan there from Lotto Soudal, who has looked really good recently, especially over some of the climbs. And I think that Caleb Ewan will be likely the fastest man in the bunch, kind of similar to what we saw last year in 2021, where he finished ahead of Wout van Aert. Of course, the winner from last year is also here, Jesper Stuyven. And when you look at Stuyven's stats from last year before he won Milan Sanremo, well, he didn't actually have too many significant results. Omloop and Kern were fairly unnoticeable, and he just kind of got through Paris and then won Milano Sanremo. So that shows that it's very possible for a rider to really come out of nowhere without any good results going into this race, and then they can still win. So those kind of riders should be looked out for. Ineos Grenadiers, of course, come with Ethan Hayter, Puccio, Kwiatkowski, Pidcock, Viviani and Ganna. Multiple options for them to go with. Viviani for a sprint, Ganna for a long range attack, Pidcock maybe as like an attacking option on the Poggio. Hayter, I'm apprehensive to say is a favourite for this race just because of his positioning during Paris-Nice. He's always at the back of the peloton, so I'm not overly keen about how he's going to do starting the Poggio at the back of the peloton really. I think that arguably the best chance that Ineos have is with Pidcock following a move on the Poggio. Ganna could definitely be a bit of a surprise though, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Kwiatkowski is just going to be the guy really piloting them up the climb because he's got such great experience, and of course he is an ex-winner of this race. Bahrain victorious, Mohoric, and I think they'll also have Colbrelli here. Colbrelli hasn't done too much this year apart from he came second in Omloop and then he DNF'd Paris-Nice. So we don't really know how Colbrelli is going at the moment. Matej Mohoric had a very good start to the season at the Volta Comunità Valenciana, but then he had a tough crash at Strade Bianche just last week. Sorry, not last week, the week before. So, there's no guarantee how Mohoric is going at the moment, but he does have very good consistency in this race, very regularly making it into the front group over the last 3 editions, I believe it is. You also have DSM, who seem to be focused solely around Søren Kragh Andersen. You remember from, I believe it was stage 6 of Paris-Nice, which was won by Bourgadeau, is that Søren Kragh was really railing that descent, and he looked really strong, especially even on the last stage where he finished in 5th place, I believe it was. So definitely a rider who is looking in great form. Somebody who did similar to that in 2019 was Ollie Nason, who finished second on that last stage of Paris-Nice. So Søren Kragh is looking to repeat something similar. That excellent descending will come in great when he's descending down the Poggio down into Sanremo. Quick step. Luckily, First Cycling is really good in this aspect, in that they do have a start list for them. And without Alaphilippe, it really opens up the possibilities for Andrea Bargioli, Florian Sénéchal, Zdeněk Štýbar, and they also have Fabio Jakobsen for a sprint. Of course, Jakobsen for a sprint, he's got to get over the Poggio. I think that he is probably one of the fastest sprinters here, if not the fastest, but he has to get over that Poggio first, which I'm not sure is likely to happen. I'm very intrigued to see how Bargioli and especially Sénéchal might do now that they're not on kind of Alaphilippe guiding duties. But other than that, you've got some perhaps more outside picks. So Brian Cockard has looked very good recently. Paris-Nice was very successful for him. 2 top 5 finishes there. He's also looked good at the Volta au Gard, the Tour de la Provence and the Étoile de Bessage this year. So he is a rider who may not even have to wait for a sprint. He could actually be following the moves on the Poggio. That wouldn't surprise me. I think that Girmay could be a very interesting rider because, of course, this will be his debut at this race. We haven't seen him doing a race of this distance before. But of all the riders in Intermarché, he seems like the most likely to be able to follow the moves on the climb. I think that Christophe will be sitting behind for like a bunch sprint. And then other than that, you may have Jasper Philipsen winning from a sprint behind. Peter Sagan maybe. How will he go? He usually finishes very highly in this race, but of course hasn't looked too great this season. You've got Michael Matthews and Luka Mezgec for Bike Exchange Jayco. Alex Arambarou, who's finished 7th in the past 2 editions of this race. And then you've also got Max Schachmann, but he didn't look great at Paris-Nice. And you've also got Sam Bennett and Giacomo Nizzolo. So you've got so many names. Here's how I think the race is going to go. Up the Poggio, I'm expecting on this kind of crosswind tailwind section, I think Jumbo-Visma will be in control of this. I think that Roglic will take up the pacemaking, leading into Laporte and Wout van Aert. I think that Wout van Aert will let the wheel go of Christophe Laporte, who will then attack to the top of the climb. And if Christophe Laporte isn't followed by anybody, he could win solo. Or the other possibility is that then everybody groups behind him and it's a bunch sprint for the finish. Alternatively, somebody could follow the move of Christophe Laporte, and then that would, instigate a bit of more of an attacking group to get away, and likely that group would survive to the finish. For me, I think that Laporte perhaps doesn't have the strength to go all the way. If he were to attack, I think that they are perhaps all in for Wout van Aert, but I do expect, as with the previous few editions of this race, that it will come down to an attacking group. I'm not sure how big that group might be. It really varies. We've seen solo attacks, we've seen a group of 2 back in 2020, we've also seen a large group in 2019 and also last year in 2021, so it's very difficult to predict who's going to be in this group, but I think we could definitely say that Wout van Aert, Pogacar and Caleb Ewan will be in this group. So therefore my prediction for this race is that Tadej Pogacar will win with a kind of 1.52 kilometre solo attack on the flat section going into Sanremo, and then we will see Caleb Ewan winning the sprint behind for second place, and that'll be his third second place finish at this race. And I think that surprisingly Biniam Girmay will finish in third place, just pipping Wout van Aert, who will then finish in fourth place. Let me know in the comments down below how you think this race is going to go, if I've missed anybody, or how you think the podium might look. And all that is left to say is to keep safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Salut!